Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video, and I thought that this would be a fun one. It would also help me kind of lock in what specs are really attracting me at the moment for patch 9.2, and also give you a little bit of information on my own decision making so that maybe you can have some assistance in making your choice for what you're going to be maining in patch 9.2. So I've got a tier list here with all of the specs available for PvP specifically, so I have not included the tank specs on this list, although some of them are actually very crazy. I don't really want to bring too much attention to them at this current moment in time. But so this is just DPS and healers. It's broken down as definitely main. This is something that it's practical. It's super fun. I'm interested to check it out. Wish I could is there's something holding it back. Maybe it's limited on compositions or options for partners. That doesn't make the investment really worth it to me. Maybe is I'm a bit curious about it, but it's not had the best track record. Probably not means that it's really not interesting to me. Smells funny is super not interesting to me. I just don't want anything to do with it in terms of builds or gameplay. And that's how I'm breaking it down at the moment. So Affliction Warlock here, we're seeing nerfs to Death Bolt coming through. It's probably not going to be in the best position, but at the same time, we have seen a recent round of nerfs to all the hybrid healing, D-stance on Warrior. Maybe Affliction can start getting some damage out that will actually sink in. It might have some possibilities, but I'm not really a fan of Affliction's build and playstyle, and I haven't been for some time. I think the last time I really liked Affliction was probably Warlords of Draenor when it comes to PvP. Enjoyed Cataclysm, Wrath of Lich King, and Warlords of Draenor. Wasn't a super big fan of the Soulburn Soul Swap, instantly dotting everybody without having to cast. Didn't really like that from Mop. But the current build here, the old stacking UA, now the kind of consequences of that in a PvP just haven't worked for me. So honestly, Affliction used to be one of my main specs. I got a Gladiator title on it in Warlords of Draenor, but right now it just kind of smells funny. I'm not really excited about any of the new builds for it at the moment. When it comes to PvP, it's targeted for nerfs, and maybe it's going to be more competitively viable after those healer nerfs, but I just don't like it mechanically at the moment. Arcane Mage, the next specialization. It's got some big one-shots. We're seeing some kind of behind-the-scenes changes to the Kyrian Covenant for it, for the Radiant Spark. I think it's going to be undispellable now. So you might be getting some really big, cheesy one-shots with the Arcanosphere, with the Radiant Spark, and stuff like that. So if you want to be that all-in, big, bursty Arcane Mage, you can. But again, mechanically speaking, for Arcane, last time I really liked it was Arcane, building up the charges, chunking out with a big barrage, always maxing out your damage at all times and looking for opportunities to get kills in PvP. Not a big fan of this kind of glass cannon sitting in the back trying to line up this perfect nuke mechanically. The builds aren't so dramatically different. It's the same type of Arcanosphere, barrage, execute, burst windows. So it's not really anything new for me personally on it. I'm not expecting it to perform fantastically, especially when it's compared to fire. So Arcane for me at the moment is kind of fun. It smells funny. We're starting to list off not in the best position at the moment. Arms Warrior, this is the spec that I would recommend basically in any patch of Shadowlands. Super fun gameplay. Had a great time with it. You can carry your friends. It's going to be really compatible with a lot of specs, and that's still remaining true. But the nerfs to defensive stance are now making Fury Warrior a little bit more of a competitive option. It's got my eyes on it a bit. I actually just played on the PTR a bit and saw some Fury Warriors doubling the Arms Warriors damage and having a bit better survivability. So there might be some opportunities. At the start of the patch, I'm thinking it's probably going to be difficult to play a multitude of characters. We're going to have to wait until we see that Forge come in to try and catch up characters. Maybe whenever they decide to, I'm assuming when they'll decide to uncap Conquest. So kind of for me, I've kind of burnt myself out on Warrior recently, having played it all the most recent patch. So at the moment, it's kind of a maybe. Maybe I'll main it. Bit worried about the nerfs. Kind of burning myself out on it. Don't really see a lot of new builds. It's kind of like you're high synergizing the existing builds, but I don't really see any real kind of new opportunities for it. So it's kind of just a maybe for me at the moment. Assassination Rogue. You're going to be doing a lot of damage. You've got the Ventir one-shot with the Flagellation. You're going to have some Necrolord Bone Spike stuff going on if you want to do some Kindred and Spirits empowerments. The Rogue Shadow Priest Shaman I'm expecting to be your best composition for the next patch. It's kind of just a straightforward tunnel one damage, get your damage out with Vendettas, reduce their cooldown of Vendetta, try and go for the kill. It hasn't really stood out to me, really. I played a lot of it back in Legion. But at the same time, back in Legion, it was a bit easier to get alts going in PvP than it is now, which maybe that's the main reason I haven't really branched out onto it again here for Shadowlands. But it's probably going to be in a better position with Warrior being nerfed, all the hybrids being nerfed. So it's going to be a good option. But for some reason right now, I just don't see myself picking it up. And honestly, I haven't played Rogue yet this expansion, so if I was thinking about trying something new, it probably would be. But at the moment, I don't think so. There's a couple specs that really I'm gravitating towards. So at the moment, probably not for me. Beast Mastery Hunter, really just straightforward, big damage chunker, massive pressure, easy to play, smooth to play. Definitely a good pickup for this patch in terms of strength, viability. I think jungle is going to be an awesome comp. Honestly, I think I've burnt myself out on it though, having played it all of the last patch. Don't see the kind of rotation changing too much. You're just going to get damage legendary plus the Feign Death legendary thing for PvP. So at the moment, I would say it's probably not. I'm just looking at some other things, and speaking of other things, Demonology Warlock. So this one I've been enjoying a lot recently just on the live game, and next patch it's going to be doing some super sick setups and burst windows. Really like the control and utility that it has. It does come with some drawbacks like your pet just dying. That was a really frustrating one that I've recently encountered with a lot of teams, but because it's got a good shot here, we've seen all the hybrid healing getting nerfed. Wizards are going to have a better shot. It's going to be doing a lot of damage. I've talked so much hype about it. I feel like I would be hypocritical if I didn't. It's one of those things where it's kind of like it could be a definitely main. Maybe I wish I could. Maybe I wish I could. The main reason I think it's a wish I could is the practicality of it for me. My friends list, it's probably better for me to be a healer if I want to guaranteed get games at the start of the patch. So a class that can be a healer and then switch to a DPS later is a little bit better for me at the start of a patch. So it's maybe a wish I could right now, and it's going to be like as soon as alts are available, or it feels like you can play alts right at the start, I'm definitely getting it, but maybe not right now for me personally. Destruction Warlock, you're pretty stationary. You've been getting bullied for most of the expansion. Seems like Thugonomics is the only one that hasn't really given up on Destro Warlock on the ladder, but he's still doing phenomenally well with it. The gameplay still feels like Destro. It's just kind of feeling like you're in the Stone Age compared to every other spec that's playing in the futuristic era. So you're feeling a little bit behind in that regard. You got these Templar's Verdicts hitting harder than your Chaos Bolts that are getting hard casted. I don't really see myself playing it. I've really enjoyed Destro back when I had the Chaos Bolt Shadow Burn Execute combos. I really enjoyed that, but at the moment, I haven't really had it jump out to the page on me. I've seen some new Necrolord builds maybe for it coming out, but it's kind of just a probably not at the moment. It hasn't really gotten my attention. Discipline Priest, this is a great spec, I think, for myself, because as a healer, I'm going to be getting games. I can switch to Shadow if I want to do some damage. I got Holy as a fallback if Disc just doesn't work out at all for me, and I think that's why I usually pick it up as a definitely main spec, because it's just so versatile and has some other secondary options to have some fun with. It's looking like a decent competitive option as well at this point, so it's definitely in a main category for me personally. Ellie Shaman, it's getting some massive damage, whether or not it's sustained pressure from being Necrolord, Fire Ellie uptime, like it's looking like a really good spec. I haven't yet tried it myself. I've actually made an Enhancement Shaman before Ellie, and I've been really having a lot of fun on it, and I think the build options for Enhance are looking a lot better. So at the moment, it's kind of a maybe on the top of my list of the maybes to check out. But because I'm so far behind in the gear at the moment for it, I'll have to kind of wait and see what's going on. But it would be a good spec to pick up because I could play Resto and heal teams if I can't find any games, then switch over to Ellie when I want to start blasting some people. So it could be an option, being a hybrid and having that choice. Enhancement Shaman, same deal. I can have that choice. It's kind of a wish I could at the moment, along with the Demo. One of those specs that's probably going to be the next one I make as soon as we really see if it's going to be alt friendly or not, that I'll just lock in because I see so many new builds with it, with the Lava Lash build, with this Ghost Wolf spamming build. Like, it's a super fun spec, still in a strong position. Might stand a bit of shakiness because Arms Warrior maybe no longer the most prevalent melee DPS with only 10% defensive stance, something to take into account. But at the moment, with how it feels and how it's been smoothed out at the moment, it's definitely a wish I could. Feral Druid, gonna have the flexibility of being able to switch to healer. Definitely Drought Legendary Necrolord is going to be doing a lot of single target damage. Could still maybe pick up the Kyrian for the Kindred Empowerments, but with Warrior being nerfed, maybe not. I don't know how well Fury Warrior Empowerment might work, because Fury Warrior has actually been surprisingly good as I've been playing on the PTR. Feral Druid, though, I've just never played really. It's honestly one of my least played specs in the game. And it's just weird because I play a Druid. I played more Guardian at this point, I think, than I have Feral Druid. And mostly I think it's because back in the day, I couldn't play melee DPS. My internet was really bad. My computer wasn't good. And I would lag out, not get to get GCDs. And if you were a Feral Druid and losing GCDs and not able to get melee range, like, you were not going to have a good time. So I avoided those specs, something like Rogue as well. So I kind of want to check it out. But nothing about it is really jumping out to me just yet for some reason. And I don't really know why it's like that, but I thought I should mention, I think it's still a really strong spec. It's going to be good moving into the patch, has a lot of meta compositions. It's going to be flexible, have the options to switch to healer and ranged. It's a great main to pick, but for me personally, I'm not interested. It's probably maybe the top of my probably not, like we're going in order of like, these are the specs that I would pick to play if you're scrolling with my mouse here, like disc, enhance, like that. That's in the order that I would likely make them. So Fire Mage, honestly, I kind of want to have some fun with it. The Necro Fire Mage, mashing up fireballs, getting big combustion resets, doing lots of damage. I haven't got to check it out yet. I really enjoyed the Warrior. Fire Mage is still going to be really, really strong in this patch. It's definitely a maybe for me at the moment. Just because I want to feel the power. I've yet to feel the power of it, so maybe ahead of Ellie here on the list of gravitating my fold to it. Again, drawbacks of not having any healer specs available to the class personally, so you're only going to be able to. A lot of my friends play Mage, so the synergies, but you are versatile. Your Fire Mage can play with a lot of specs, so it could be a good pick for you if you want to be a main Fire Mage, but for me, not jumping off the page compared to Enhance or Demo at the moment to get up onto the Wish I Could tier, but definitely the next one in line. Frosty K, I still really want to experience the A-Bomb limb, and I think this could be the patch to be a DK with all the nerfs to the hybrids, although you're getting nerfed too. It's only specifically to casters, and not like casters are the most spectacular into your class anyways, with how much lockdown and anti-magic zone, anti-magic shield, all that stuff that you've got to deal with them. So Spell Warden is probably not going to be too massive with how powerful it was to begin with, and your Death Strike is still uncontested. Death Strike might be the best heal in the game when it comes to a DPS spec, so you do stand a good chance. I really want to check out that A-Bomb limb. Like, if you play Shadowlands and don't play that A-Bomb limb at some point, I think you're really missing out on something. So for me, it's probably a bottom of the Wish I Could list for specs, because I really want to check that out before the Shadowlands abilities go away. Frost Mage, again, could be a lot of fun to be the Necrolord Frost Mage, spamming out those Frost Bolts. We're seeing some nerfs to it. Might not be in the strongest spot. At the same time, Hybrids got nerfed. Maybe it could work. I'm getting a little bit of a Mage itch, and that Necrolord Mage is something that I feel like you're not going to want to miss. At least me, personally, I don't want to miss. So maybe it's coming in again with the Fire Mage, maybe behind it, because Fire is looking a little more competitive, a little more versatile. Not only the Wizard setups, you can run with some melee DPS as well, so it comes in a little bit later. But I've usually actually almost always had a Frost Mage alt in most expansions, and this is the first one that I didn't. I really missed the old school Shatter combo, hoping that returns at some point to the game for Frost Mage and PvP, because it's such a niche, iconic type of mechanic. Just timing that Frostbolt hit with the Nova right at the same time, there's a sense of satisfaction that you can't get. Actually, one of the main reasons I'm leveling a Frost Mage on TBC right now, to try and relive. But the Necro Skelly Mage could be a build that I want to make sure I get my hands on before the expansion is over. Fury Warrior, surprisingly, is getting my attention. It's a little bit basic of a spec. It's like a feels good, get in there, get some damage rolling, but it's not really that in-depth or detailed. But now with the D-Stance nerf, it could have a shot. And having seen some big pump numbers on it, it's kind of getting my attention. So maybe it's coming in maybe ahead of the Frost Mage, maybe a little bit after the Frost Mage, just because I feel like it's this iconic Shadowlands moment, whereas Fury Warrior is going to probably be more or less the same, but procking in these extra hits of recklessness and stuff like that, and your Rampage, it could be fun to check out. I played a bit of Fury back in Legion. Since then, I haven't really gravitated to it, but this could be the patch to main it. Holy Paladin, I've played it this patch, the 0 to hero on it. You're still going to have mana problems. Looks like behind the scenes, you're actually getting a bit of a healing buff, but it doesn't seem like that's what you need. It's kind of probably not. I feel like I burnt myself out on the 0 to hero. The Vanquisher's Hammer, I think, as a Rhett is a better feel for the Vanquisher's Hammer if you want to make sure you're getting that Paladin Shadowlands experience. So for me, it's kind of a probably not. Although you do have some great flexibility with this spec if you choose to main it, being able to play Rhett and have some burst damage moments and some fun with that, and then Holy. But I think you'll struggle to pick up teams. So maybe not. And right now it's coming towards the bottom list of the probably not for the next patch. Holy Priest. It's really tough for me to get Rogue Mage games, and it seems like that's like one of the best comps for it. It might be more versatile in this patch. You have the fallback of playing Disc or Shadow, but I really think Disc is more fun at the moment, at least for myself. Pumping out damage the whole game just has a fun vibe as a healer is totally unique. Holy is much more about these like kind of go-based compositions. Not really the super biggest fan of them, although it is the way to play the game at the moment in terms of the meta. I'm not really drawn to it. There's nothing really specific other than the Kyrian, pressing Boon of Ascended before Shadowlands is gone. That might pull it up on the list for me a bit here, just to experience what the Boon of Ascended can do here. And it seems like it could be a viable option. Some Wizard Cleaves that are looking strong at the moment. So maybe coming in the middle of the maybe just to experience that. I have a Demon Hunter at the moment on live, which I've kind of experimented around with the demon procking, but if you don't get lucky with the fodder, you can feel really bad. But if you're procking a lot of demons, you feel really good. I've pressed the hunt. I've kind of lived through it. Super fun. Definitely you need to experience the hunt if you haven't at some point as a main for a Demon Hunter, but I've been playing it on and off, having my fun with it at the moment. So it's coming in maybe the top of the probably nots because it's still really fun to press the hunt and pretend you're like a Super Saiyan flying through the air. But yeah, at this point, probably not, pretty far away from being a main. Marksmanship Hunter. I really want to actually try Kyrian Marksmanship Hunter. I feel like if you don't experience the Resounding Arrow before the expansion is over and shooting through walls, you might have missed out. Or the Necrolord one-shot, because I've been playing Venthyr. I was BM main, didn't want to level up the Renown. So it's kind of like maybe middle of the pack because I really want to experience that Resonating Arrow, the same with the Necrolord Mage. It's something I don't want to miss before the expansion is over. And it's going to have some decent competitive options. It's doing a lot of damage on the PTR right now. Set bonuses maybe not that great for it in PvP. Looking at the damage breakdown, I don't even think I saw trick shots on a lot of breakdowns for the MM Hunter, so I'm not even sure if you can wear them. So maybe that's not that appealing, but the Resonating Arrow, just because I haven't played with it yet, is something that I don't want to miss. It's something you might not want to miss if it's been catching your attention as well. Balance Druid, I really like the builds on Balance Druid right now. I fooled around with some Necrolord. I've seen a little bit of Venthyr, but I don't want to go with the 3-minute cooldown in PvP. I really don't like that type of build. But the Kyrian one is still looking strong. Really love the Machine Gun Star Surge. Super fun. You have the versatility of going between Resto and Boomkin very seamlessly with your gear and your build. So it's one of those things where it's like, probably going to be what I main. It's what I've been playing for a long time, what I've been known for. It's usually my first character, and because it has that flexibility and the new builds look fun and I don't want to miss out on them, it's already geared up, ready to go. It's kind of in that locked in slot for me, at least as one of my first characters. Mistweaver Monk, I don't really even want to talk about it. I feel like it smells funny. I don't like the banana beam sitting there. No offense available to it. You just roll in for an in-cap and then pour it out, and they get frustrated when you get countered by certain mechanics that don't let you escape situations. So to me, Mistweaver, I really want to see get an overhaul moving into the next patch like we saw with some specs in Shadowlands. It needs to have some offense component to it that's viable in PvP in my mind for it to really grab my attention again. But at the moment, it's just kind of smells funny for me. It's probably one of the furthest away specs. Maybe not the furthest. Arcane is probably the furthest, let's be fair, for myself at least. So it's coming in at the bottom. Outlaw Rogue, great defense, great sustain damage. Might have a shot in this patch, but it's still such a mystery. Still so much up in the air. You're going to be really restricted on what comps you can play with this. So for me, and there's nothing that's been like, wow, I got to check that out. On Rogue, and maybe it's because the Covenant abilities don't have like these amazing animations or effects like the Resonating Arrow or the Skeleton Mage with these, or the Chain Harvests, or the Decimating Bolts. Like they don't really stand out to me the same way. Like Flagellation does a lot of damage, but it's like doesn't pop out on my screen and make me feel cool like all these other classes at the moment. And its competitive viability, its limited options is kind of like probably not, but maybe the top of the probably not at the moment of the specs that I've covered so far. Resto Druid, again, really powerful spec at the moment. It's going to be probably the most competitive healer right off the rip. It's probably going to be, again, with me playing Boomy and Resto because I can flip between the two, but mostly Resto up here just because I already have the Boomkin. It's really easy to switch over to it if I want to. You can basically play them at the same time in PvP and be totally fine. So that's why it's coming up here towards the top. But it is getting a couple nerfs, I think, in behind the scenes. I saw a tweet about it. Don't know if they're official yet. When we find out, I will definitely update you, though. And we'll have to see if that impacts Resto Druid significantly enough that it falls down in terms of competitive options. But it's honestly up here, not so much because I want to play Resto. I've kind of played through what Resto has to offer. It's just because it's there and you can play both. I really am probably going to do Boomkin. It's not a problem to switch if you're going to pick Boomkin. If they weren't attached, Resto would actually be much lower, though, I think, for myself. Rhett Paladin, I've done the Divine Toll shenanigans, Blinding Light, one-shotting people with wings. Wasn't really a big fan of it outside of that. Didn't like that all the damage was locked in your cooldowns, even though you do these completely KO people. I played through it already a little bit, so it's kind of a probably not at the moment. The Necrolord Rhett does have my attention a bit in terms of how much chunkiness it can get out. But I don't really see myself picking it up. It's definitely competitive, going to be super viable option, easily competitive pick. But for myself personally, I've already lived through the Divine Tolls. I've seen what it has to offer. It's kind of a little bit too straightforward. Like Fury Warrior and Red, I almost think of on the same tier for how straightforward they are. But I haven't experienced some of the new stuff that's coming for Fury that's got my attention more than Red at the moment. But it's great. You're going to have fallbacks if you want to for Holy, but again, maybe not that. Maybe that's not the best as a fallback for versatility to find teams in LFG. But it's a great pick. For me, though, probably not. Resto Shaman, I actually really want to Fey Transfuse people. I don't want to pop Dwayne on people and Earthquake and Purge people and get really aggressive. I actually do really want to. And with Enhance as a wish I could, it's like Resto could be a decent little fallback as an off pick. So it's definitely a wish I could spec at the moment. And I want to make sure I get to try that build out before the expansion's over, just because it does look like a lot of fun. Shadow, I played it in season 1. I've kind of seen what it had to offer with Venthyr. Haven't yet to get a chance to play the Necrolord version of it, although it just looks like kind of more of the same of the Shadow, just more shadowy with diseases and pet summoning. It's great spec to main. It's got a lot of versatility, utility. It's flexible for comps. You can switch to healer if you want to pick up stuff. So it's like probably high on the maybe at the moment. It's just the visuals and the feel of these specs and the builds coming out for these specs I'm gravitating more than kind of the Necrolord Shadow Priest. I get to dot more people. I was already dotting. Not really catching my eye at the moment. Same thing goes here for the Rogues. The Rogue Covenant's just not really pulling my attention at the moment. But Anima charging, Kyrian sub-rogues are going to be a menace. Rogue Mage is going to dominate. It's going to be super powerful. I've seen my other tier lists. But for a main, I don't think I'm going to have very many options of people on my real ID to play with. It's going to be pretty tough. But it could be fun. Definitely the Rogue spec that has my most attention. So maybe it's coming in ahead of the Shadow Priest once I've checked out all these new kind of Shadowlands specific ability classes that have a good chance here in this patch of maybe being decent. I would want to get onto it and maybe try and fool around with one-shotting people from stealth and stuff like that with the sub-rogue, but just in the middle of the maybe at the moment. Survival, definitely a spec that I wish I could here. I picked it up in 9.1.5. Didn't really get to completely flesh it out and really kind of put a lot of time into it. But with the next patch with the bomb build, could be really a lot of fun. Doesn't have the A-bomb limb that's really grabbing me right now for the DK. But it's right after, almost immediately right after. Unholy DK, same deal as Frost. Honestly, it's going to depend on like how many comp options I can get between the two, because they're both got the A-bomb limb build likely to be their best option. But the Unholy maybe has my attention a little bit more in terms of playstyle and feel. I really like that ramping up of damage. Just a matter of if it's viable or not. Because if it's not and I can't get any games, then I'd be really disappointed. Windwalker, honestly not really interested in it for the same reason as the Rhett. You're only doing damage in those cooldown windows and then you're just running away, and that's really not a playstyle that I particularly like. I like playstyles where I'm in the fray the whole time, trying to ramp up, build up these peaks, get CC, push for kills, and Windwalker is just not that at the moment. Maybe we'll have to wait and see, but at the moment Windwalker kind of just smells funny for me as a main. You'll have, again, if you want to switch to Mistweaver, I can't even put it at the top of it. I want to put it at the top of it. You'll have Mistweaver as fallback if you want to make sure you can be a healer, but Mistweaver also not the most desirable in LFG, so that combo together might be a bit risky. You do have some flexibility being able to play with melee DPS, mages, and Shadow Priests. You got some options competitively with it as a Windwalker monk, but it's the playstyle, the mechanics of the playstyle that aren't attracting me at the moment for the Windwalker, and there's nothing kind of cosmetically or power feeling from the Covenants that's like, wow, Resonant Arrow, or for the Windwalker that I got to check out personally before the expansion's over that I'll feel like I missed out on. But this is my list. Definitely mains are kind of, these are like the practical ones that I really enjoy all the time. The wish I could are the ones that I'm like making as soon as it feels like you can play alts. And then the top of the maybe are the ones on the crust that I haven't yet got to experience with Shadowlands that look like they've got competitive options with some cool new builds. And the probably not is either ones that I've already done. They don't have anything really that's grabbing me, or I think they could be competitively lacking, or their specs like the Assassination Feral that I just already have some predetermined biases that I explained in the video. And then the smells funny is mechanically they just do not jive with me at all. I would almost rather see these specs looked at specifically for the future, at least when it comes to PvP, to have their damage focused into that playstyle of ramping up, trying to be in the action, trying to get control, and always trying to fight, because that's just the way that I really like to play the game. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the list. Hope you got something out of it here for picking a main for yourself. If you did like it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Comment down below with your thoughts on the specs. What's looking good for you? What are you looking to check out as a main? And follow me on Twitch. I'm streaming every day, twitch.tv/Supatease. And we can have some fun. Viewer games. We're doing rank 1 pushes. We're doing 0 to Heroes. And 9.2, of course, is coming out. So we're going to be going through that together as well. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.